Society is waking up to a nightmare it never saw coming. Millions of men have quietly vanished from the system, not with a bang, but with a shrug. They've walked away from jobs, from universities, from dating, from marriage, from the entire script that was handed to them. And now the ground is shaking beneath everyone's feet. What happens when the people who built, maintained, and paid for almost everything simply stop showing up? Stay with me until the very end, because by the time this video is over, you're going to see exactly why this silent exodus is the biggest story of our lifetime, and why the people who laughed at these men for years are suddenly the ones screaming the loudest. If you want more raw, no filter, angry guy content like this, smash that like button right now. Share this video with every man you know who's awake, and subscribe with notifications on so you never miss a single upload. While you're down there, go click the link in the description and check out Angry's Crypto Academy. That's where I teach you step by step how to buy, sell, trade, and protect your wealth in the crypto space so the collapsing system can never touch what you've built. Thousands of men are already in there stacking real assets while the old world burns. Go join them right now. And if these videos are lighting a fire under you the way they light a fire under me, show some love and buy me a Red Bull through the link in the description. Every can keeps the rage fueled and the truth coming. All right, let's get into it. Let me paint you a picture. It's 2015. The internet is flooded with articles, talk shows, viral videos, all saying the exact same thing. Men are the problem. Men are toxic. Men need to be fixed. Men need to cry more, talk about their feelings more, take up less space, listen more, apologize more, pay more, provide more, and expect less in return. Universities are telling young guys they're inherently privileged oppressors just for being born male. Dating apps are rigged so the average guy gets 0 matches while the top 5% clean up. Jobs are demanding emotional labor, group hugs, and pronoun circles just to get through the interview. And every time a man dared to push back even a little, he was called fragile, bitter, or dangerous. So what did a lot of men do? They shut up, they nodded, they smiled, and then quietly, they started disappearing. At first, nobody noticed. A guy here stops going to college. A guy there quits his corporate job to drive a truck or work construction for cash under the table. Another guy deletes his dating apps and decides hobbies and gym are cheaper than dates that go nowhere. Another one moves back in with his parents, saves every penny, and invests in crypto or trades instead of chasing promotions he'll never get. Another one just ghosts the entire matrix and goes off grid. Individually, these moves look small. In isolation, they looked harmless. But when millions of men start making the exact same decision at the exact same time, something massive begins to move under the surface. Fast forward to today, 2025, and the numbers are finally screaming what many of us saw coming a decade ago. In the United States alone, male labor force participation has plummeted to levels not seen since the Great Depression. We're talking about prime working age men, 25 to 54, the backbone of any economy, simply not working, not unemployed and looking, not disabled, not in school, just gone. The official stats say about 7 million men have dropped out entirely. 7 million, that's larger than the population of many countries. And those are just the ones the government can still count. Add in the guys who work cash jobs, gig work, or crypto trades that never hit a W-2. And the real number is probably north of 10 million. Think about what that means for a second. Every one of those men used to pay income tax, payroll tax, sales tax, property tax, if they owned a home, all of it. Every one of those men used to buy cars, appliances, clothes, electronics, meals out, all the things that keep retail and manufacturing humming. Every one of those men used to spend money on dates, engagement rings, weddings, houses for families, all the things that keep entire industries alive. And now they're not. The tax base is shrinking faster than the government can print money to cover the gap. State budgets are blowing up, pension systems are teetering, social security projections are collapsing years ahead of schedule. The people in charge are running around like chickens with their heads cut off, trying to figure out why revenue is drying up, and they still refuse to say the quiet part out loud. The men stop showing up. But it's not just the economy, it's everything. Walk into any major university today, look at the enrollment numbers. Women now make up almost 60% of college students, sometimes more. In some countries, it's pushing 65%. Men have voted with their feet and decided the juice isn't worth the squeeze. Why take on six figures of debt for a degree that gets you a cubicle job where you're told daily that your masculinity is a problem when you can learn a trade, start an online business, or stack crypto and be financially free by 30? The smart ones did the math and walked. And the dating market, oh man, that's where the panic is really starting to set in. For decades, women were told they don't need men. Be independent, climb the corporate ladder, live your best life, travel, collect handbags, get the master's degree. The men will wait. Well, guess what? A whole lot of men looked at the deal on the table and said, no thanks. Passport bros, digital nomads, crypto bros, gym bros, monks, whatever you want to call them. They're out there living life on their terms, and they're not coming back to fun lifestyles they're no longer part of. Birth rates are crashing in every developed country on earth. In South Korea, it's below 0.8 children per woman. In the United States, it's down to 1.62, well below replacement level. Japan, Italy, Spain, same story. The media wants to blame everything except the obvious. When large numbers of men decide marriage and kids are a rigged game, the species stops replacing itself. Simple math. And now the same voices that spent years celebrating girl power and men are trash are suddenly writing frantic articles asking, where have all the good men gone? They're acting like these men vanished into thin air. No, they didn't vanish. They walked. They were pushed, nagged, regulated, taxed, shamed, and legislated out of participation. And when they finally took the hint and left, the people who told them to go are now shocked that they actually listened. I want you to really let this next part sink in. Every modern society runs on the unpaid and underappreciated labor of men. Roads, bridges, power grids, water systems, sewage, skyscrapers, shipping, trucking, mining, oil rigs, logging, fishing, farming, the dangerous, dirty, back-breaking jobs that keep civilization from sliding back into the Stone Age. 90+% men. And for generations, men did those jobs, paid the majority of the taxes, and then took what was left and handed it over to women and children in the form of protection and provision. That was the deal. Work yourself to death, but your family eats, your wife doesn't have to work if she doesn't want to, and your kids get a better life than you had. That deal got torn up, burned, and the ashes were spit on, while men were told they're the villains for expecting anything in return. So they stopped signing the contract, and now the bill is coming due. Single women's poverty rates are climbing fast. Credit card debt among women aged 25 to 34 is exploding. Home ownership for single women under 40 is plummeting because the dual income fantasy only works when there is actually a second income attached to the household. Go look at the data. In cities like New York, London, Toronto, the number of women living alone or with roommates well into their 30s and 40s is skyrocketing. The cats and wine and boss babe Instagram posts aren't paying the rent anymore. And the craziest part, the system still refuses to admit what's happening. They keep blaming misogyny or toxic masculinity or men's mental health instead of looking in the mirror and asking, wait a minute, did we maybe break something that can't be fixed by another government program? Because here's the thing nobody wants to say out loud. Men were never the oppressors holding women back. Men were the infrastructure holding everything up. And when the infrastructure walks away, the whole building starts to crack. I've been saying this for years, and every single year the evidence gets louder. The men who figured it out early are now living in Thailand, Colombia, Eastern Europe, or just quietly in small towns back home with six-figure crypto portfolios, zero debt, peace of mind, and no one telling them their existence is a problem. Hey guys, in a world pushing you to own nothing and be happy, crypto is your key to survival. Join Angry's Crypto Academy to master buying, selling, and trading crypto. Make huge profits and safeguard your wealth. Plus, discover the one crypto virtually no one is talking about, poised to create new millionaires in the upcoming bull run. The link is in the description of the video below. Go check it out now. The men who are figuring it out now are joining them in droves. And the men who still haven't woken up, they're the ones about to get hit hardest when the final stages of this collapse kick in, because it's not stopping, it's accelerating. Every month, more men drop out. Every month, more men go their own way. Every month, the tax base shrinks a little more. The birth rate drops a little lower. The loneliness statistics climb a little higher. And the panic in the legacy media gets a little louder. And the best part, the men who walked away aren't angry anymore. They're calm. They're focused. They're building wealth, health, brotherhood, and freedom on their own terms. They're not begging to come back. They're not negotiating. They're not apologizing. They simply remove themselves from a game that was rigged against them. And now the referees are realizing the stadium is half empty, and the concession stands are running out of money. This is the biggest story of our generation, and almost nobody is telling it straight. So here we are in 2025, watching the slow motion collapse of a social order that thought it could demonize, devalue, and discard its most productive members and suffer no consequences. The consequences are here, they're massive, and they're just getting started. Now let's go deeper, because what we just covered was only the surface crack. What's happening underneath is a full tectonic shift, and most people still think they're watching a little tremor they can fix with another TED Talk, another tax hike, or another Be a Better Man campaign. They're wrong, dead wrong. And the numbers that are starting to leak out in 2025 are so brutal that even the corporate media can't fully bury them anymore. Let's talk about the tax collapse in detail, because this is the part that keeps bureaucrats awake at night, sweating through their organic cotton sheets. In the United States, the top 10% of male earners pay roughly 71% of all federal income tax. Let that land. 7 out of every $10 the government collects come from men, and most of it from the upper slice of men. When even a fraction of those men decide to downshift, expatriate, go gray man, or simply stop climbing the corporate ladder so they don't get pushed into higher tax brackets, the entire federal budget goes into cardiac arrest. And guess what? That's exactly what's been happening for the last 8 years straight. The IRS's own data, quietly released in quarterly reports nobody reads, shows that the number of six-figure plus male taxpayers has been flat or declining in real terms since 2018, while the number of six-figure female taxpayers has grown, but nowhere near fast enough to offset the male exodus from high earnings. Why? Because many high-earning men looked at the effective tax rates, the marriage penalties, the child support landmines, the Title IX kangaroo courts, the believe all women weaponization, and they said, you know what? I'm good at 85,000 a year living in a low-cost state with no state income tax. Keep the corner office. Some of them moved to Puerto Rico and took the Act 60 tax incentives, zero capital gains, 4% income tax. Some moved to Dubai, zero income tax. Some moved to El Salvador and paid in Bitcoin. Some just moved 3 states over, bought a house with cash from crypto gains, and now work 25 hours a week remotely while the algorithm thinks they still live in California. Point is, the money vanished from the taxable system faster than the politicians could figure out how to close the exits. State budgets are now eating themselves alive. California is staring at a $68 billion deficit this year. New York is 22 billion in the hole. Illinois can't pay its pension bills and is raising taxes again, which only accelerates the exodus. Every time they jack up rates to chase the shrinking pool of high earners, another 50,000 men do the math and leave. It's a doom loop they can't admit is happening because admitting it would mean admitting why it's happening. And it's not just the high earners, it's the everyday guys too. The guy who used to make 70,000 a year as a lineman, pay 18,000 in taxes and spend the rest on a truck payment, a mortgage and a family, he's now making 55,000 cash as an independent contractor, paying maybe 4,000 in taxes because he writes everything off and he's single with no kids. The government lost 14,000 a year from that one guy. Multiply that by 5 million guys and you're looking at $70 billion a year just poof, gone. That's not a budget shortfall. That's a 5 alarm fiscal fire. Now, layer on the collapse in consumption taxes. Men buy the overwhelming majority of new cars, new tools, new electronics, new guns, new motorcycles, new boats, new grills, new home improvement projects. When men stop getting married and stop having kids, they stop needing 3,000 square foot houses, minivans, and swing sets. They start buying one-bedroom condos or renting small apartments, driving a 10-year-old truck they maintain themselves, and putting the extra money into assets that don't depreciate. Retail is bleeding. Auto loans are defaulting at levels not seen since 2009. Home Depot and Lowe's are quietly laying people off because the Weekend Warrior projects dried up. Best Buy is closing stores because the guys who used to drop 2 grand on a new TV every few years now buy a used OLED off Facebook Marketplace for 400 bucks and call it a day. The entire consumer economy was built on men trying to impress women, provide for families, and keep up with the Joneses. Remove the incentive, remove the spending. But here's where it gets really wild. The same system that's losing all this revenue still has to pay out all the obligations it promised when men were participating: Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, pensions, welfare programs, student loan forgiveness, child tax credits, earned income credits, Section 8 housing. All of it was priced, assuming a growing or at least stable workforce of men paying in way more than they ever take out. That assumption is now shattered. The trust funds are projected to go negative years earlier than anyone predicted, and there's no political will to cut benefits because the primary voting bloc, women over 50, will burn the country down before they give up one dime of what they were promised. So, what's the plan? Print money, borrow money, raise taxes on the people still dumb enough to earn a W 2. And every time they do that, another wave of men looks at the deal and says, yeah, I'm out. This is the death spiral in real time. Let's shift to higher education because that collapse is so spectacular, it deserves its own chapter. In 1970, men were 58% of college graduates. Today, women are 60% and climbing. The gap is now the widest in recorded history. Entire degree fields, psychology, education, social work, communications, humanities, are 75 to 90% female. The only fields men still dominate are the ones that pay immediately and don't require 4 years of ideological reprogramming: engineering, computer science, nursing, barely, and trades, which don't require college at all. Universities responded by doubling down on the very curriculum that repelled men in the first place: more gender studies, more mandatory diversity training, more bias response teams, more Title IX offices with 40 staff members and a $12 million budget. They built luxury dorms, climbing walls, lazy rivers, and charged 80 grand a year for the privilege of being told you're the root of all evil. Men looked at that price tag, looked at the ROI, looked at the cultural hostility, and said, hard pass. Enrollment of men has been dropping every single year since 2011. The 18-year-old male population is flat or growing, yet fewer and fewer of them are showing up. Community colleges are becoming ghost towns of men. For profit colleges that targeted men collapsed years ago. The result? Universities are now laying off faculty by the thousands. Tenured professors who thought they had a job for life are getting pink slips. Entire departments are being merged or eliminated. Small liberal arts colleges are closing at a rate of one per month. The higher ed bubble that everyone said could never pop is deflating in slow motion. And the only solution the administrators have is to try to recruit more women into STEM by telling men they're not wanted there either. It's almost poetic. And the downstream effects are just starting. All those women who are told, get the degree, the men will catch up later, are now graduating into a world where the men never showed up. They have the debt. They have the gender studies degrees. They have the entry level HR jobs that pay 45,000 before taxes. And they have no realistic prospect of the lifestyle they were promised because the dual income households they were counting on don't exist when half the men never entered the tax system to begin with. Go on any dating app in a major city right now and watch the meltdown in real time. Women in their late 20s and 30s with master's degrees and good jobs listing height requirements, income requirements, degree requirements that almost no man under 40 can meet anymore because the men who could meet them opted out a decade ago. The phrase high value man gets thrown around like it's still 1995 and those guys grow on trees. They don't. They're in Medellin, they're in Bucharest, they're in Phuket. They're day trading meme coins from a beach with a $400 a month apartment and a smile on their face, and they're not coming back. The loneliness epidemic we keep hearing about isn't a mental health crisis, it's a direct consequence of millions of men following the incentives that were set for them. When society tells men for 20 straight years that commitment to women is exploitation, that marriage is a bad deal, that children are a financial and emotional trap, that masculinity itself is suspect, eventually a large enough percentage of men listen and act accordingly. And when they do, the entire social contract unravels. We are living through the largest voluntary withdrawal of male participation in human history. Not war, not plague, not famine, just millions of men, one by one, looking at the system, shrugging and walking away. And the craziest part is that most of them aren't even mad anymore. They're relieved. They sleep better. They train harder. They eat better. Their bank accounts grow. Their stress levels plummet. They have time for hobbies, for brotherhood, for travel, for peace. The anger phase lasts a few months, maybe a year. Then comes acceptance, then comes building. That's why you see these guys on YouTube and TikTok and X living their best lives while the legacy media screams about how it's all unsustainable. They're not unsustainable. The system that depended on their unpaid labor and unconditional commitment is unsustainable without them. And the system knows it. And that's why you're starting to see the tone shift in 2025. Articles that used to say men need to step up are quietly being replaced with where are all the men? Podcasts that spent years bashing toxic masculinity are suddenly doing episodes on male loneliness like they just discovered it yesterday. Politicians who built careers calling men predators are now talking about re engaging young men and restoring male purpose because the tax money is gone and the panic is setting in. It's too late. The men who walked away aren't coming back to save a society that spent decades telling them they weren't wanted. They're not returning to the plantation because the overseers suddenly realized the crops aren't getting harvested. They're building parallel systems, crypto, remote work, expat communities, homesteading, trades, content creation, investments, brotherhoods that actually have their backs. They're voting with their feet, their wallets, and their attention every single every single day. And every day, another 20-year-old kid watches one of these videos, reads one of these posts, or talks to an older guy who already made the jump, and he makes the same decision. This is compounding. This is exponential. This is unstoppable. We haven't hit the inflection point yet. We're still in the early innings. When the real estate market finally cracks because there's no one left to buy the overpriced houses, when the pension systems start missing payments, when entire cities go bankrupt because the tax base walked away, that's when the mainstream will finally admit what's been happening. By then, the men who saw it coming will be so far gone, they'll be untouchable. That's the part that keeps me up at night, not out of fear, but out of pure awe. We are watching history rhyme in real time. Every great civilization that collapsed did so after its men stopped believing in the system and stopped sacrificing for it. Rome, Athens, you name it. The names change, the details shift, but the pattern is always the same. Men hold civilization together with their labor, their taxes, their protection, and their willingness to die if necessary. Remove the incentive for men to do any of those things, and civilization doesn't evolve, it crumbles. We're not there yet, but we're closer than most people want to admit. And the most powerful thing any man watching this can do right now is recognize that your participation is voluntary. Your effort is voluntary. Your money, your time, your commitment, your future, all of it is yours to give or to withhold. The system only has the power you choose to give it. So ask yourself, is the deal still worth it? Is the juice still worth the squeeze? Are you building a life that makes you proud? Or are you funding a machine that despises you? Because millions of men have already answered that question. And their answer is changing the world. Now, let's talk about the part nobody in the corporate media has the guts to say out loud: the female economic reality check that's hitting like a freight train in 2025. For 2 generations, women were sold the ultimate fantasy package: get the degree, get the career, live like a celebrity in your 20s, freeze your eggs if you feel like it, and then around 34 or 35, the handsome, tall, 6-figure earning, emotionally available guy who loves your energy and your 3 rescue dogs will magically appear, lock you down, and subsidize the entire second act of your life. That was the script. That was the promise on every sitcom, every rom-com, every empowerment playlist, every university orientation speech, except the guy never appeared because he was never coming. And he was busy figuring out 10 years earlier that the script was a trap. He watched his dad get cleaned out in divorce court. He watched his older brother pay child support for kids he barely sees. He watched his college buddies get Me Too'd out of careers over a bad date. He read the statistics on marriage and divorce and false allegations and paternity fraud. He did the math on alimony and asset division. And then he looked at the women on the apps demanding 6 feet plus, 100K plus, no kids from previous relationships, must love brunch and international travel. And he just closed the laptop and went to the gym. So now we have an entire generation of women hitting 33, 35, 38 with master's degrees, corporate titles, and a lifestyle that requires a second income they were always told would be there when they were ready. And suddenly the second income isn't materializing. The ring isn't coming. The proposal in Paris isn't happening. The dual income house in the good school district is mathematically impossible on one salary. And the panic is visceral. Go on Reddit, go on TikTok, go on any female dominated space online right now and watch the tone shift in real time. The strong, independent woman posts from 2018 have been replaced with tearful videos titled, "Where Are All the Men Who Want to Build a Family?" The "I don't need a man, I have my girls and my wine" energy has been replaced with frantic threads asking why every guy they meet just wants something casual or disappears after 3 dates. Because those guys learned the game. They learned that commitment is the worst financial and legal deal a man can sign in 2025. They learned that no fault divorce means she can walk away with half plus cash flow for a decade while he gets supervised visitation. They learn that the culture celebrates women leveling up and trading up, but calls men deadbeats if they even think about doing the same. So they stopped offering commitment. They offer situationships at best, and most of them don't even offer that anymore. The result? Record high female loneliness numbers, record high antidepressant and anti anxiety prescriptions among women under 40, record high credit card debt, record high OnlyFans subscriptions because the corporate job and the government assistance still don't cover the lifestyle inflation that was promised to be temporary. Hey guys, listen up. If you're tired of going through life alone and you want real brotherhood with men who actually think and grind like you, then check out Angry Guys Clubhouse. It's a community built around brotherhood, passive income, business insights, and even expat living. Plus, you get access to our private men's chat where real conversations happen every day. And when you sign up, you'll get the passive income blueprint and the expat blueprint free just for joining. Don't wait. The link is in the description. Go check it out now. And the most telling statistic of all, the marriage rate has collapsed to the lowest level ever recorded in the United States. We're talking Great Depression levels, except back then people were poor. Today, the economy is supposedly booming and people still won't pair up. Why? Because men looked at the contract and said, I'd rather be single than bankrupt and heartbroken. Women are now openly asking in viral videos, what do we have to do to get men to marry again? And the answers they get from men in the comments are brutally consistent. Fix the family courts, end no fault divorce, stop celebrating single motherhood, bring back fault based divorce, make paternity fraud a felony, stop incentivizing women to blow up their families for cash and prizes. In other words, make marriage safe for men again. But that would require admitting that the last 50 years of legal and cultural changes were a catastrophic mistake. And the people who built their entire identities and careers on those changes would rather watch society burn than admit they were wrong. So instead, we get articles blaming men for commitment phobia and Peter Pan syndrome and porn addiction and every other excuse under the sun, except the real one. Men adapted rationally to a system that punishes them for participating. And adaptation is exactly what's happening on a massive scale. You've got entire online ecosystems now built around teaching men how to disappear financially and legally, how to build wealth without a W 2, how to live in low cost countries on $2,000 a month while earning $10,000 remotely, how to keep your assets in trusts and LLCs and crypto wallets that no court can touch, how to date internationally without bringing anyone back to the jurisdiction that hates you, how to build brotherhoods and networks that replace the family and community the system destroyed. This isn't fringe anymore. This is mainstream for any man paying attention. Look at the explosion of the passport bro phenomenon. American men are now the number one demographic getting married in Colombia, Brazil, Thailand, Philippines, Ukraine when it reopens. You name it. They're not going there because I think they can't get women at home. They're going there because the women in those countries haven't been brainwashed into thinking men are the enemy yet, and the legal systems haven't been weaponized against male commitment. The U.S. State Department literally had to issue warnings because so many American men are renouncing citizenship or establishing second residencies. The government is losing its golden geese, and they know it. Meanwhile, back home, the birth rate collapse is accelerating so fast that even the New York Times is running front page stories about it. South Korea just announced their fertility rate dropped to 0.72. That's not a population decline, that's a population implosion. Japan is closing schools by the hundreds because there are no kids to fill them. Italy is paying people to move to dying villages because entire regions are turning into ghost towns. And every single one of these countries has the same thing in common: decades of telling men they're disposable, followed by men treating society as disposable in return. This is what happens when you break the intergenerational contract. Men used to sacrifice their bodies, their time, their freedom, and their lives so the next generation would have it better. When you tell men there is no next generation worth sacrificing for, or that the next generation will be raised to hate them, they stop sacrificing. Simple cause and effect. And now we're starting to see the early stages of what happens when a society runs out of young men willing to do the hard jobs. Look at the military recruitment crisis in the United States. They've missed recruiting goals for 3 years straight. They've lowered standards, raised bonuses, relaxed tattoo policies, allowed lower ASVAB scores, and still can't fill the ranks. Why? Because young men looked at 20 years in Afghanistan and Iraq, looked at the VA horror stories, looked at the woke training, looked at the generals more concerned with pronouns than winning wars, and said, "Not my circus, not my monkeys." Same thing in law enforcement. Police departments in major cities are down 20 to 40% in staffing. They can't recruit. The guys who would have signed up 20 years ago are now driving trucks for 100,000 a year cash or trading crypto from their basement. Why take a job where you're hated by half the population, defunded by politicians, and one viral video away from having your life destroyed? Fire departments are starting to feel it. Construction is chronically short of skilled labor. Trucking has a shortage of hundreds of thousands of drivers. The entire blue collar backbone of the country is aging out, and the next generation isn't replacing them because the next generation figured out they can make the same or more money without the risk, without the abuse, and without ever having to leave their house. And the craziest part, most of these guys are happier than they've ever been. They're in the best shape of their lives. They have free time. They travel. They have disposable income. They have peace. They're not drowning in consumer debt for weddings and houses and college funds they'll never see a return on. They're stacking assets while the system that hated them slowly eats itself. This is the part the legacy media will never understand. Men walking away isn't a tantrum. It's not a protest. It's not even revenge. It's liberation. It's millions of men realizing that their grandfathers were sold a bill of goods too, but at least their grandfathers got respect, gratitude, and a society that pretended to value them. Today's men get none of that, so they stopped playing. And the vacuum they're leaving behind is going to reshape everything. We're already seeing the first political realignments. Politicians who spent decades courting the female vote are suddenly realizing that single women over 40 don't pay enough taxes to keep the lights on. Countries like Hungary and Poland figured this out early and started offering massive pronatal incentives aimed at married couples, zero income tax for mothers of 4 or more kids, lifetime mortgage forgiveness for large families. And guess what? Their birth rates are stabilizing while everyone else is crater. The rest of the West is still pretending the solution is more daycare and more abortion access. Good luck with that when there's nobody left to pay for it. The economic reckoning is coming faster than people think. Commercial real estate is the next shoe to drop. All those downtown office towers built for the 2 income professional couples who were supposed to fill them, empty. All those 3,000 square foot suburban houses built for families with 2.3 kids, sitting vacant because the men who would have bought them never got married, and the women who want them can't afford them alone. BlackRock and Vanguard are quietly buying up single family homes, but even they're starting to slow down because the math doesn't work when the buyer pool has shrunk by 30%. And the dating app companies are privately freaking out. Their revenue growth has stalled because men stop paying for premium features that get them nothing. Tinder's parent company stock is down over 60% from its highs. Bumble's founder stepped down after admitting they can't figure out how to monetize women the way they monetize male desperation. Everything that was built on the assumption of endless male participation is cracking at the foundation. And the men who saw it coming, they're not gloating. They're not celebrating anyone's pain. They're just living. They're in the gym at 5 a.m. They're closing trades while drinking coffee on a balcony overlooking the ocean. They're riding motorcycles through the mountains with their boys. They're building businesses that don't need HR departments. They're mentoring younger guys who are just waking up. They're free, and freedom, once tasted, doesn't get surrendered again. That's the part that should terrify the system the most. This isn't temporary. This isn't a phase. This isn't something you can fix with a marketing campaign or a tax credit or another men need to man up speech. The genie is out of the bottle. The red pill has been swallowed by millions. The knowledge can't be unlearned. The incentives can't be realigned without dismantling 50 years of legal and cultural changes that nobody in power is willing to touch. So the walking away continues quietly, relentlessly, unstoppably. Every day, another man wakes up, looks around, and decides he's done funding his own destruction. Every day, another man deletes the apps, cancels the therapy, quits the dead end job, and starts building a life that actually belongs to him. Every day, the system loses a little more of the lifeblood it took for granted, and every day, the future becomes a little clearer. The old world is dying, and the men who built it are walking away to build something new. The only question left is which side of history you're going to be on when the dust settles. And now we're going to slow the camera down, zoom all the way in, and talk about the one thing that ties every single thread of this collapse together: the complete and total destruction of male incentive. Because everything we've covered so far, the tax collapse, the university collapse, the marriage collapse, the birth rate collapse, the recruitment collapse, the retail collapse, isn't happening because men suddenly became lazy or broken or addicted to video games. It's happening because every single incentive that used to make men sacrifice, grind, build, protect, provide, and stay has been systematically stripped away, burned, and replaced with punishment. Let me take you back to how the deal used to work because most men under 35 have never actually seen it in the wild. Your grandfather, or maybe your great grandfather, woke up in a world where the rules were brutally simple. You work hard, you play by the rules, you get married, you raise decent kids, and in return, society respects you. Your wife respects you, your neighbors respect you, your country respects you. You weren't rich, but you weren't scared. You weren't celebrated every day, but you weren't vilified either. You were needed. Your effort had meaning. Your sacrifice had a point. You could walk into a factory at 18 with a high school diploma and by 30 own a 3-bedroom house, 2 cars, and take the family on vacation every summer, all on one income. If you died on the job, the whole town showed up to your funeral and your wife was taken care of. If you came home from war missing a limb, the country called you a hero and made sure you never had to worry about money again. That was the contract. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't paradise, but it was real. And men signed up in droves because the upside was worth the grind. Now, fast forward to 2025 and look at what replaced it. You work hard, you play by the rules, you get the degree, you climb the ladder, you finally make 6 figures at 34. And what do you get? A 50+% chance of divorce, where she gets the house you paid for, half your retirement, and a chunk of your income for the next 15 years, whether she remarries or not. A legal system that will believe her tears over your evidence 9 times out of 10. A culture that calls you a predator for looking at a woman too long. A deadbeat if you can't pay child support after you lose your job. And a loser if you're not 6'2" with a six-pack and a 6-figure salary. At the dating market, where the average 32-year-old woman with a cat and 80,000 in student loans thinks she deserves a top 5% man who will happily sign up for all of the above. A tax system that takes half your income before you even see it, then hands a large portion of it to single mothers who are explicitly told they don't need a man. Dash, A corporate job where one wrong joke in the group chat can end your career overnight. Dash a university system that charged you 200 grand to teach you that your very existence is problematic. A media ecosystem that runs 10 hit pieces a week about how men are trash, then wonders why men stopped caring what the media thinks. That's not a contract. That's a hostage situation. And men, being rational actors when given enough time and data, looked at that hostage note and said, you know what? I'm not signing. That's it. That's the entire story in one paragraph. Every man who walked away didn't do it because he hates women. He didn't do it because he's scared of responsibility. He didn't do it because he's addicted to porn or Fortnite. He did it because he ran the numbers and realized that maximum effort now leads to maximum punishment later. And the rational move, the only winning move, is to stop playing. And once enough men make that same calculation at the same time, the whole game board flips. That's where we are right now. We are living through the greatest incentive realignment in modern history. And the craziest part is that almost nobody in power is willing to admit what the new incentives actually are. They keep trying to shame men back into the old deal. Man up, step up, be a provider. Real men marry single mothers. Real men don't care about height requirements. Real men don't complain about family court. But shaming only works when the target still cares what you think of him. And millions of men have quietly, peacefully, permanently stopped caring. That's the point of no return. Once a man stops caring about social approval from a society that hates him, he becomes unstoppable. He starts optimizing for himself and the small circle of sort of people he actually trusts. He lifts, he stacks money, he travels, he builds skills, he vets every relationship like a private investigator. He keeps his circle tight, he keeps his assets hidden, he keeps his peace sacred. And there is no speech, no policy, no viral TikTok, no amount of guilt tripping that can pull him back into a burning building once he's tasted fresh air. That's why all the "where have all the good men gone" articles fall on deaf ears. The good men didn't die, they didn't disappear. They just stopped being good for a system that was never good to them. They became good for themselves. And that shift, that single shift, is more powerful than any law, any tax code, any cultural campaign, because you can't negotiate with a man who no longer needs your approval, your validation, or your permission to live a great life. You can't tax that's a man who earns in crypto and lives in a country that doesn't care where the money came from. And you can't shame a man who deleted Instagram and only talks to 10 people he would die for. You can't regulate a man who builds his business in silence and keeps his name off everything. You can't control a man who has zero desire to be seen as a good guy by people who hate him. That man is free. And freedom spreads like wildfire once men see it's actually possible. And that's why the numbers keep getting worse for the system every single quarter. And every quarter, more men drop out of the workforce. Every quarter, more men leave the country. Every quarter, more men delete the dating apps. Every quarter, more men go monk mode and stack. Every quarter, more men realize that peace is cheaper than drama, that solitude is cheaper than divorce, that a passport and a laptop can take you further than a corner office and a mortgage ever could. And every quarter, the system loses another piece of the foundation it used to stand on. We're watching the slow death of a civilization that forgot the one rule every civilization before it learned the hard way. You do not get to abuse, exploit, and demonize the people who carry you on their backs and then act surprised when they set you down. Rome did it, Sparta did it, every empire that fell did it. They all mocked their men, taxed their men, shamed their men, and then begged their men to come back when the barbarians were at the gates. And every single time, a large enough number of men looked at the deal and said, well, not my problem. History is rhyming again. Only this time it's happening in slow motion, on live stream, with data, charts, and millions of men coordinating in real time across the planet. And the best part? This time, the men aren't waiting for the collapse to start building something new. They're already doing it. They're building wealth outside the system. They're building brotherhoods outside the system. They're building bodies and minds and skills that no recession can touch. They're building parallel economies, parallel communities, parallel lives that don't need permission from HR, from government, from universities, or from women who spent a decade telling them they were the problem. They're building the life their grandfathers were promised, but never actually got. And they're doing it without asking. That's the part that should make every man watching this sit up straight. You do not need to wait for society to fix itself. You do not need to wait for laws to change. You do not need to wait for women to lower their standards. You do not need to wait for the culture to value you again. You just need to start walking, one decision at a time. Delete the apps, hit the gym, fix your finances, build your skills, vet your circle, protect your peace, stack your assets, lower your exposure, raise your standards, and never ever apologize for putting yourself first after a lifetime of being told you're supposed to come last. The system will scream. The blue pill simps will call you selfish. The legacy media will call you a coward. The women who price themselves out of your future will call you bitter. Let them scream. Their opinions don't pay your bills. Their approval doesn't keep you alive. Their validation doesn't put food on your table or peace in your soul. Your results do. Your freedom does. Your brotherhood does. Your future does. And right now, in 2025, millions of men are proving every single day that a man who controls his time, his money, his body, and his mind is the most powerful force on the planet. Governments can't stop him. Corporations can't fire him. Courts can't touch him. Society can't shame him because he's already gone. He walked away. And once a man walks away, he never walks back unless the deal is completely rewritten in his favor. And the deal will never be rewritten as long as men keep volunteering for the old one. So the only question left is, how long are you going to keep volunteering? How many more years are you going to spend grinding for a system that calls you toxic while it picks your pocket? How many more dates are you going to pay for with women who think you're lucky to be there? How many more taxes are you going to pay so the government can fund lifestyles you're not allowed to be part of? How many more years are you going to waste before you finally admit that your life is yours and yours alone, to build or to burn? Because the men who already made the jump aren't coming back to pull you out of the burning building. They're too busy living, they're too busy winning, they're too busy being free. And freedom, once you taste it, is the most addictive substance known to man. So here we are. The economy is cracking, the culture is crumbling, the old world is dying, and a new one is being born in gym basements, in crypto wallets, in beach apartments in Colombia, in small towns nobody's ever heard of, in brotherhoods that don't need society's permission to exist. The only thing standing between you and that new world is one decision, and just walk and never look back. Because all roads lead to MWA, men walking away. And the men who walk first build the future. The men who wait get left behind in the ashes. Choose wisely. Now, before I let you go, I want to take you inside the heads of the men who already made it to the other side. Because this isn't theory anymore. This isn't some future prediction. This is happening right now in real time to millions of regular guys who look just like you and me. I want you to picture a 31-year-old former corporate drone named Ryan. Real story, name changed. 5 years ago, Ryan was making $110,000 in a soul-crushing tech job in Seattle. He had the standard issue girlfriend who earned $75,000, wanted a $2.5 million wedding, expected him to buy a house in a neighborhood he couldn't afford, and already had a Pinterest board for the 4,500 square foot home they'd grow into. Ryan was stressed, overweight, in therapy, on 2 different antidepressants, and still getting told he wasn't doing enough. One Tuesday night in 2020, he stumbled across a video just like this one. He didn't sleep. He spent the next 72 hours reading, calculating, rage scrolling, and then this is the part nobody talks about. He cried like a baby in his shower because he finally saw the cage he'd been living in. 6 weeks later, he did 4 things that changed his life forever. 1, he quit his job and took a remote contract role that paid 30% less on paper, but had zero commute and no office politics. Second, he broke up with the girlfriend, ate the 8K he'd already spent on the ring deposit, and never looked back out. Third, he moved out of the overpriced apartment, got a studio 40 minutes outside the city, and paid cash for a used 4Runner. Fourth, he took every extra dollar and threw it into Bitcoin and a handful of altcoins when nobody was talking about crypto yet. Fast forward to November 2025. Ryan is 31, lives in Medellin, Colombia, on about $2,200 a month. His contract role now pays him in USDC straight to a wallet the IRS can't see. His crypto portfolio is worth north of $3 million. He trains jujitsu twice a day, speaks fluent Spanish, dates women 10 years younger who cook for him and call him mi amor without irony, and hasn't had a single panic attack in 4 years. He owns his time, he owns his money, he owns his peace. And when he flies home to visit family, his old friends look at him like he's from another planet. The same guys who used to mock passport bros now beg him for advice while their wives side eye him across the Thanksgiving table because they can smell the freedom on him. Ryan is not special. Ryan is not a genius. Ryan is not top 5%. Ryan is the new normal for any man who decides the juice is no longer worth the squeeze. Multiply Ryan by 5 million and you start to understand the scale of what's actually happening. There's Chris, 28, former electrician in Chicago, saw the writing on the wall with the union going woke and the city falling apart, cashed out his 401k, took the tax hit like a man, bought a one-way ticket to Thailand, learned Muay Thai, started an online fitness coaching business, and now clears $15,000 a month training guys remotely while living on a beach for $900 a month. His Instagram is private, his location is off, and his peace is non-negotiable. There's Marcus, 35, former Army infantry, did 2 tours, came home to a cheating wife and a divorce that took everything. Lived in his truck for 6 months, stacking DoorDash and crypto trades. Now he owns a small ranch in Paraguay, runs cattle, grows his own food, and hasn't spoken to a woman from the West in 3 years. He smiles in every photo. Real smile. The kind that reaches the eyes. There's Diego, 29, former software engineer in San Francisco, fired for creating a hostile work environment after he questioned why the company was hiring based on skin color instead of skill. Took his severance, moved to El Salvador, helped build a Bitcoin mining operation, and now gets paid in SATs. Dates a 23-year-old local girl who thinks feminism is a type of yoga. He laughs every time someone back home calls him a loser on X. These aren't outliers. These are the early adopters. The second wave is happening right now. Guys in their early 20s who never even entered the system in the first place. They looked at their dads, looked at their older brothers, looked at the culture and said, yeah, no thanks. They're learning trades, stacking crypto, training, traveling, and building brotherhoods before they ever sign their first W-2 or swipe right on a dating app. The third wave is coming. The guys who are 38, 42, 45, locked into marriages they hate, mortgages they can't afford, and careers that own them. The ones who are one market crash or one false allegation away from losing everything. A lot of them won't make it out clean, but some will. And when they do, they'll become the most dangerous men of all because they've already lost once and have zero fear left to lose. And that's the pipeline. That's the machine that's running 24/7 now. And no amount of government propaganda, no amount of male loneliness epidemic think pieces, no amount of celebrity pastors telling men to man up and marry those single moms is going to reverse it. The knowledge is out. The map is drawn. The exits are marked. And every single day, another 500, another 1,000, another 10,000 men step through those exits and never come back. This is bigger than any political movement. This is bigger than any religion. This is bigger than left or right, red or blue, trad or progressive. This is human nature reasserting itself after 50 years of ideological experimentation. Men were told for 2 generations that their role was optional, that their sacrifices were exploitative, that their protection was oppressive, that their provision was patriarchal, that their very biology was suspect. And men, being adaptable creatures who respond to incentives, did exactly what they were told. They became optional. And now the civilizations that made them optional are discovering in real time what life looks like when the people who carry the load decide they no longer feel like carrying it. This is the story of our time, and you right now reading the script, watching this video, you're living in the middle of it. You're either a part of the collapse or you're part of the rebirth. There is no third option. So when you close this video, ask yourself one question and only one. Am I still volunteering to fund, build, and defend a society that spent my entire life telling me I'm the problem? If the answer is yes, keep doing what you're doing. The system thanks you for your service. If the answer is no, then welcome to the winning team. Start where you stand. Delete what drains you. Build what feeds you. Protect what matters. And walk. Walk like your life depends on it. Because it does. Your peace depends on it. Your wealth depends on it. Your future depends on it. And the future of every man coming after you depends on the example you set right now. The old world is dying. The new one is being born in the actions of men who refuse to die with it. Be one of those men. All roads lead to MWA, men walking away. Now close this video, go lift something heavy, send a text to a brother who needs to hear the truth, stack another sat, and start walking. The rest of us are already miles ahead, and the view up here is incredible. What did you think about all this? Did any of this hit harder than you expected? Are you already on the path, or is today the day you finally take the first step? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's keep the conversation going. Like the video if it woke something up in you. Subscribe if you're not already. Share this with every man who needs to see it before it's too late. And just remember, all roads lead to MWA, men walking away. Cheers.
Nothing says you care like crypto. Nothing can compare. Nothing says you care like crypto. Oh, nothing can compare to crypto.